It's homecoming for Tony Elliott. He and the Cavaliers, he's been coaching up there for 3 years or so, coming to Clemson for his homecoming. Not Clemson's homecoming, his homecoming. Okay, I'm rambling now. 12 o'clock this coming Saturday at on the ACC network. The coffee is not working, y'all, but I'm still going to talk about this game. Welcome to the channel. I'm Brian. I'm glad you're here. If you like talking college football, you like talking Clemson football, make yourself at home. Just don't take your shoes off. That's weird. I don't know. You probably have a foot fungus, and that's fine. That's between you and whoever. But hope you'll subscribe. It is free. So Tony Elliott is one of those faces that when you think about the Clemson run over the past, the playoff run, especially those 6 years, the 2 national championships, you have to think about Tony Elliott. Tony played for Clemson many, many years ago. He has a really good story, and a lot of people look at that story and they admire it, and you should. It's a great story. I mean, he wasn't even in coaching at one time. I think he was working at Michelin. I don't know what capacity. I haven't looked that up, or in what capacity, but he ended up getting into coaching, and Tony had a lot of success. He won the Broyles Award, which goes to the nation's top assistant, and then he moves on and he coaches at Virginia. Virginia is not an easy job. He took the place of Bronco Mendenhall, which, of course, Bronco Mendenhall is now coaching either New Mexico or New Mexico State. I can't remember which one. It's one of those teams in New Mexico that's quite terrible. There you go. But he took over for Bronco Mendenhall after Mendenhall. And that's a lot of times to say Mendenhall in a row. Left. He was no longer. I don't know what the deal was. But anyway, Tony is now the main man. And his Cavaliers come into Clemson this week. They are 4-2 overall. So let's just talk about who they've played and who they've lost to. So they kicked off the season with a win over Richmond and a 1-point win over Wake Forest in week 2, 31-30. On September the 14th, they played Maryland. It was a good old-fashioned former ACC game. For me, I can still see George Welsh coaching for Virginia, and that big nose, him picking it over there with the Barber twins, Each Barber twin had their fist up his nose. It was great. They lost that game to Maryland 27-13. Then they played at Coastal Carolina. They won 43-24. They played Boston College. They won that game 24-14. That was kind of a shocker for me. And then this past weekend, they played Louisville, says Sean McDonough. Clemson. They beat Louisville 24-20 they lost to Louisville 24-20 this weekend. So they lost to Louisville. So let's talk a little bit about the team. You have to look no farther than their sophomore quarterback. He's more of they call him a deal threat. He's more of a runner than a passer to a point, but he's been passing the ball. He's 6 feet tall, 183 pounds, out of St. Petersburg. Anthony Colandrea. He's thrown for 1,490 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 4 touchdowns. The kid was thrown in the fire last year after Brennan Armstrong left Virginia, went to NC State, was replaced by a guy who ended up transferring out after he beat Clemson. Long story, but there we go. They do have a pretty good wide receiver on their team, Malachi Fields. He's 6'4", 220 pounds. He's a senior, 37 receptions, 541 yards, 3 touchdowns that I know of. He is not injured, so he should play against the Tigers. As far as their lead running back, Xavier Brown, he's a 5'9", 196 type of back, 46 carries, 334 yards, no touchdowns. Now, the Cavaliers come into this game, as I said, 4-2 overall, 2-1 in the conference, with losses to Maryland and just their first conference loss this past weekend to Louisville. They open as a 22.5-point underdog to Clemson. So that tells you what Vegas thinks of Virginia being 4-2. That's That's what they think of them. That they're going to come to Clemson, and Clemson's going to beat them by at least 3 touchdowns. So I look at this game, and I have some questions about Virginia, because Virginia is not the Virginia that I named out just a second ago. The Virginia who had the Barber twins on the sideline and George Welsh. And that team could play. Remember, Virginia was the first team to beat Florida State in conference play since Florida State joined the ACC. And that was the type of team they were. They were the type of team that when Clemson played them, especially during those down years of the 90s, after the administration fired Danny Ford, hired Ken Hatfield, that didn't go the way they wanted. Then they went, hey, let's go get a first-time head coach that's only been coaching for 1 year out of UT Chattanooga, who's has a losing record. But he worked for Danny. He reminds us of Danny, so let's bring him back. Or, yeah, to come coach at Clemson. During those down years, and I'm not knocking Tommy West. If somebody offers you a job like Clemson, you take it. The administration should have known better. Once again, proving that administrations know little to nothing about what they're doing. But teach their own. That's not the same Virginia team that we had to sit there and go, can we beat them? Can we beat them? Little history for you here. The same year that Virginia beat Florida State for the first time since they joined the conference, that same year, and I think the term is transient, just because this team beats this team doesn't mean this team will beat that team. You know, we've talked about that before. You've heard other people talk about it. Here's an interesting fact about that season when they beat Florida State. That season, Florida State beat Clemson by 19 points. That same season, Virginia beat Clemson by 19 points. It was a rainy game that year. Clemson lost by 19 points, had Antoine Wyatt. I think the biggest play of the game was he caught a long pass. But I can remember that play because it was a rainy day. I mean, it was just dark and gray. Virginia beat Clemson. That's not the Virginia team that Clemson will be playing this week. Clemson, on the other hand, they're looking for win number 6 in a row, and they're looking to go 5-0 in the conference. They're a top 10 offense in the country. They're ranked number 10 right now. Let's talk about Virginia. Virginia's ranked somewhere around number 44 and number 45 offensively. They haven't played a defense like Clemson yet. We don't need to take them lightly, but that's where they're at. But here's the key. Here's 2 keys. Virginia is the worst red zone offense in the ACC. Worst red zone offense in the ACC. And then you want to hear something that will make you start licking your chops and probably explain why Clemson is a 21.5-point favorite right now. It dropped just by a point. You know how it does. It opens at 22.5. Now it's 21.5. And by game time, it'll be like 23. You know how it goes. Virginia's defense, total defense, is ranked 91st. Does that not scream success for Clemson's offense? An offense that's just running through the competition like a stomach bug through a 5-year-old who can't keep his hands out of his mouth at school. That screams success for me. Before I go farther and I talk a little bit about my prediction and give you a score prediction, which to pick it myself these past 2 weeks, I have not given. I've named it a preview and a prediction and didn't give a prediction for two weeks in a row, y'all. So I'm going to give you a score prediction here in just a moment and give you the keys to the game. I want to step in here and say, hello, Parker Henderson. Howdy, I was just about to text you. Well, dude, I got my phone right here. You can still text me here in just a second. Parker, thanks for supporting the channel. I'm glad to see you in here. See the symbol beside Parker's name? That means he's joined on a monthly basis, $3 or $5 per month. I made it really affordable. So if you want to support on a monthly basis, folks, $3 or $5 per month, there's a join button below the video. If you're on an iPhone, you may not see it. So, Parker, thanks for supporting the channel. Roger Parks, hey, I caught you live finally. Yes, Roger. Yes, you did. You can put that in your baby book. You did it. And you support monthly. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. We got Rad Brad. Go Tigers. I think we went out and beat Miami and Charlotte. I hope so, Rad Brad. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I'm going to get to the keys of the game, but it's also part of the season. Let's see. Like the way you think, Rad Brad. Mac Lambert. Good morning, Brian. Good to see you, Mac. Brantley Major, love the pod. Listening on the way to school. Hey, Brantley Major, thank you for listening, keeping your ears in and listening. Good morning, Professor Brian. Big John. Big John, thank you so much. Professor Brian, I may have to start a section on this show, or segment called Professor Brian. You're making my ego feel good about me. Big John, see the symbol beside his name. He's been supporting the channel monthly as well. Thank you so much, everyone who's supporting on a monthly basis. Folks, if you haven't subscribed, it's the sweetest words in the English language, free. Or as I messed up and said the other day, free. I had a stroke. So I hope you'll subscribe. Let's talk about the keys to the game. The keys to the game is really the same every week for me with this Clemson football team. Why? Well, right now Clemson's 5-1. They're on a 5-game winning streak. They're undefeated in conference. They're ranked number 10. If the college football was played today, Clemson would be in. Miami would be in. But this past weekend showed us a lot in college football. I didn't get to do my reaction to the weekend in AP Top 25. I was busy Sunday. But we saw Tennessee flounder yet again and almost lose to a bad Florida team. Their fan base is pissed. You have Alabama almost losing to South Carolina. By the way, you may despise the Chickens. I'm not a Chickens fan, but let me tell you this. Those Chickens actually played them really, really well. Georgia struggled with Mississippi State. You had Oregon and Ohio State, the most interesting game of the weekend. We saw a fifth-year senior slide with time running out. That's a $20 million roster at Ohio State. Plus, so things are shaking out. Things are shaking out in college football. And right now, Clemson's slowly on the rise. I say slowly, but they started off the season 14th. They had the loss. They dropped. And now here we are, mid-October, Clemson's number 10. Clemson's a team that every time you watch the major sports channels, they're talking about Clemson's rise. They're talking about that Clemson looks like they're back. They're talking about Cade Klubnik as a Heisman hopeful. And this stuff is good. Clemson's doing, for the most part, except for Florida State, Clemson is doing what I've been saying they need to do. You beat bad teams bad. Clemson can't help that Virginia's no longer any good. Clemson can't help that Florida State is not the Florida State that we are traditionally used to. Clemson can't help that. Clemson can't help that NC State fell apart. They can't help that. They can only play their schedule, and that's what they have done, and they have beat bad teams bad, like you're supposed to. The only time you should have competition is when you're playing a really good team. With this roster, with this brand, Clemson should be steamrolling the rest of their schedule from this point out. Well, Pitt's looking good. Who the heck has Pitt beat? Can you tell me that? So the key for this game is focus. Virginia's a bad team. Sure, Tony, what he did at Clemson is appreciated. The guy is an alumni. The guy was a player. We respect that. Don't take it easy on Tony. Because, Dabo, Tony's job is to beat you. And Clemson needs to use this opportunity, and I'm saying this week in and week out, and I'm going to say a lot of the same things over and over until Clemson plays a good football team and beats them. But Clemson needs to use this opportunity to play against a team who is not part of their practice squad, who's not part of their team. They are playing a team who is a whole other entity who hates their guts. When they line up across from Virginia, Virginia's like, our job is to come here and put you in traction. That's our job. That's why they give us the helmets and the pads and everything, and that's why we lift weights like machines, is to dominate you. Now, it doesn't look good for Virginia. I just gave you their stats. They're ranked 91st defensively. I believe they're dead last in red zone offense. They lost to Louisville. Who was that other team I said they lost to? They lost to Maryland. Maryland's not good. So they have a winning record. Great for them. Clemson should beat the trash out of these guys. But this is a time for Clemson's offensive line. I say it every week. I said I'm going to repeat myself, to continue to get better under the leadership of Matt Luke. Better communication, better footwork, better technique. Getting rid of the old and bringing in the new. Mindset of offensive line domination. And that trickles down to Cade, and Cade getting better, not throwing into double and triple coverage, running the ball when it's there, not forcing the pass, the wide receivers going out catching the ball. The tight ends continue to get them better. The coaching staff on the offensive side of the football at every level, all the way up to Garrett Riley, getting better. The defense, we've seen the holes in the secondary. That can't happen. That can't happen anymore. If you want to play championship football, hey, coach, we're ranked number 10. That means nothing if you can't back it up. This is a great chance for the secondary to get better. It's a great chance for Clemson to come out and stop arm tackling like we've seen over the past few weeks. This is the opportunity to truly get better in real life games against not your practice squad, but against another team. And you win this game, you don't know who's going to lose in the top 10 this weekend. I haven't looked at the schedule for the top 10, and I need to do that. But all Clemson needs to do is focus on winning out, getting to Charlotte, and beating whoever shows up there. They get to the playoffs, and that will, be, in my opinion, will most likely be the real test. What I mean most likely. Well, what I'm thinking about is they would get the bye, potentially. You're supposed to get the bye, but if there's a lack of respect towards the ACC, we've heard of that before, maybe they don't get the bye. I don't know. I don't know if the committee would pull one there. They've done it before. My coffee's lukewarm now, but it's still coffee. But my point here is this is a chance for Clemson to get better. If Clemson, there's the word, 2-letter word with massive implication. If Clemson played the first 6 games like this, and then had Georgia right now, I ask you, would there be a difference? I'm going to give you my prediction. Clemson comes out. They win this ball game. Virginia is not a good team. Virginia is not a good team. I call Clemson wins this game 49-14. 49-14, somewhere in there. And if Clemson does not steamroll them, and we see some of the poor habits that we've seen, that's going to be a problem to you and I, because this game is game number 7 out of 12. And I know someone in there is going, you can't win every game by 30 unless you're playing a team who sucks. You're supposed to. You're supposed to do it. Winning is hard. Yes, I agree. But you're not playing Florida's schedule. You're not playing South Carolina's schedule. You're not playing Texas's schedule or Oklahoma's schedule. You're playing a conglomerate of terrible ACC football teams. Yeah, you're supposed to steamroll them. And I hope Clemson, that I'm predicting they win somewhere around 49-14. This game shouldn't even be close. Get in here, say hello to a few good people. Let's see. Blah, 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 blah. Morning, Big John. Danny not. Danny. Let me tell you this. Danny is one of my cousins. And Danny, thank you for commenting. Thank you for commenting. He and my dad are first cousins. Danny's extremely talented. And that Danny would even watch my show kind of Danny, you're making me nervous, man. You're making me nervous. It's good to see you in here, Danny. It's always good. Very talented, by the way. Very, very talented musician. Shane Bentley, yeah, that the way UGA looked against Mississippi State has me worried against Texas. But hey, you're telling me there's a chance. Yes, I am, my friend. Shane Bentley, thank you for supporting the channel. See you in there. Too early to answer that, John. Long way to go. I think he and Big John were talking about Georgia's chances in the playoffs. SEC dog, it's good to see you. Well, folks, leave your comment below. Let me know, what do you think the score is going to be for Clemson? Is Clemson actually getting better? Or are they hiding behind just bad at conference play? Are they really getting better? That's my concern. I want to know what you think. Hey, they're winning, and that's all we can really ask for at this point, right? So I want to hear your thoughts. Also, if you haven't subscribed, the channel is just blowing up. I hope you'll subscribe. Remember, it's free. And pass this along to your friends, your neighbors. You're a clergyman. Y'all take care of yourself. And as always, go Tigers.